Hey, what's up, SoundBar flirts? Daniel here. I'm back from Never Enough Tech. I did finally move, like where I live, which seems to be mostly in this basement. That's all blurry behind me. Instead of nurturing my channel with content like successful people, I've spent the last few months pointing a money hose down here full blast, so it looks passable. Still no hope for me, unfortunately. Save you some comment time. So I thought I'd make a big splash on the return by reviewing the second most requested sound system from last year. Me and my channel really hate each other. That's right, the SONY HT-A7000, along with the big sub, the SONY, and the rear speakers, the SONY. You can place your order for all three at the time of this recording for a cool $24.50, and then probably wait, as everything that is good and fun is back ordered these days. Yes, I know that Sony is planning some major updates to this system this spring in regards to the rear speaker offerings. I will touch on those details at the end of the review. It does seem like, at least in the traditional soundbar sphere, the people were most impressed with this system. Maybe split with the Samsung Q950A in 2021. Let's dig in. Design and build. Of the soundbars I've tested, this bar is the top three along with Bose and the Sonos Arc in terms of build refinement. I don't know where to put the Ambio. You'll find tasteful touches of materials, pleasant rounded edges, a gray metal grille, past which you can see the noisemakers in the right light. You'll find high quality glass on top that hosts Bose-like capacitive controls. The extremes of the bar are adorned with a taut speaker fabric, which seems somewhat unfriendly to fuzzies, so Sony's making magical cloth now, I guess. The back of the bar houses the ports and is cladded in a textured plastic. The bar is quite wide at 51 inches, hefty, 20 pounds, and tall enough at 3.25 inches to get in the way of your TV if it's sitting on a low-profile stand. Pair it with TVs 60 inches and up to keep your setup from looking ridiculous. Big bar with a little TV. As the sub and surrounds are offered separately, they are, as you might expect, a higher tier build than your typical all-in-one box surrounds and sub. Both have a solid feel. Sony did not go risky on the design. They're rounded and safe. The only design flair is a very understated faux leather, which they hid in the back of the surrounds. Everyone knows to put the design flares in the back of the device. This fake leather plastic also adorns the sides and top of the sub. The surrounds have a metal grille, and the sub has fabric covering the front, hiding the blowhole, yet allowing air to pass through. Makes some sense. And the back also has fabric because... Okay, maybe I'm overthinking it. The sub does have a raised downward firing driver, which may cause problems for mammals residing below. The surrounds come with a mounting screw hole and a hole to hang on a nail, if you're extremely casual with your mounting. Sony keeps referring to the system's design language as an omnidirectional block design. If you're OBD, it means you have sophisticated round edges, you meet the very clear technical criteria of wide-spreading sound, and you're a single block. Okay, like maybe 70% of us are OBD. OBD silliness aside, the system is solid in looks and build quality, and I'll give it to Sony. Okay, they all look omni-blocky. Ports, pretty generous. You got your eARC HDMI port, a prerequisite for your lossless audio formats, and the 8K 60Hz, 4K 120Hz video pass-through. So feel warm and fuzzy about that. Dolby Vision, yes, supported as well. You have 2 additional HDMI inputs, so it's plausible you can just use the bar as the sole media distributor. This particularly makes sense if your TV does not support eARC and you want to play a lot of lossless audio formats from your Blu-rays and gaming consoles. Sony even shows some love for the Luddites with an optical out supporting the 3 people who own this soundbar and a non-ARC TV. I assume to be ironic. And aux-in for the record player computer speaker, rock on. You'll find a USB port, which is primarily intended for music playback, not just updates, as we see with many bars. This peculiar S-center out enables, with this provided cable, to use compatible Sony TVs as an additional center channel, look for Bravia Acoustic Center Sync compatibility. Sadly, I don't have a compatible Sony TV, and I'm feeling pretty bad about that. Very generous backside. Maybe they should have put some of that fake leather back here. Driver array. This bar is officially advertised as a 7.1.2 500-watt soundbar, which is funny as it looks a lot like a 3.0.2 500-watt soundbar. Sony does have a habit of exaggerating on its profile page. So let's break down this interesting line of noisemakers here in the front. Right in the center, you see what looks like 3 woofers. It looks like this because there are 3 woofers, but Sony is calling 2 of them subwoofers. Don't ask questions. In the middle one, a regular woofer. Almost universally, drivers in the middle of the flagship soundbars are 2 woofers and a tweeter. So Sony is doing its own thing here in the middle, which tends to be a pretty important driver grouping for voice clarity. I'll keep an open mind. Moving on to the ends of the bar, you'll find 2 woofers and, I've seen these before on a Bose bar, beam tweeters. Really aimed at widening the sound spew, sometimes referred to as the soundstage, and getting the waves bouncing off walls and ceilings to make it sound more spatial. On the top of the bar, you'll find 2 upward firing woofers. What you won't find are drivers on the side of the bar, which you'll normally find on soundbars that claim over 3 ear level channels, like the Sonos Arc, a 5.0.2 bar, and in particular the Samsung Q950 series, a 7.0.2 bar that have 2 side firing channels on each side of the bar. You go, girl. Okay, so officially the A7000 is a 3.1.2 bar, right? Nope, 7.1.2 officially. I do kind of miss the days, like 18 months ago, that you could kind of figure out the channel count by looking at speaker groupings, but those days are really behind us. We're now in the world of software-defined virtual channels, no longer subject to the strictures of how many drivers you can cram around the bar. In general, the idea of discrete channel counts is starting to sound a bit antiquated. I think the new question is, can you create a convincing sound bubble or not? The surrounds are somewhat humble, being just 1.0, so no upward firing drivers, but each surround speaker is anointed with a woofer-tweeter pair, which suggests some effort and care. They're both 50 watts each. Just to be clear, adding the surrounds does not augment the system to a 9.1.2. Rather, the surrounds take over some of the surround sound stuff that the bar would otherwise try to do. Adding the sub gives you a more official 300 watt .1 there in the middle. Sony does make a point to call out the shape of the rectangular-esque woofers, even on the surrounds and sub, which they call an X-balanced speaker unit. Sony claims that these woofers, because of their more rectangular shape and increased diaphragm area, contribute to clear, more punchy lower tones. Not enough time to argue. Sony's spatial audio technology. So since we're not looking at a classical 7.1.2 bar driver-wise, Sony uses fancy software to make their claim realistic. First up, the vertical sound engine, which specializes in EQing and emphasizing frequencies in a manner that tricks your ear into believing sound is occurring at different points in vertical space. Sony uses this technology with and without upward firing speakers, so hopefully upward firing speakers in this bar contribute to what the vertical surround engine is doing. Honest talk, I'm fairly convinced that upward firing speakers are not major contributors to height effects. I'm guessing it's 90% software and how many drivers you have, largely leveraging tweeters. And while the more drivers, the better, and the more spread out the drivers, the better, the vertical angle of the drivers may not be particularly important. My conspiracy theory anyway. For horizontal spatial sound, Sony touts the S-Force Pro, which assists in creating a traditional surround sound even with no surround speakers. Sony's got some special sauce for music as well. Sony likes to throw the number 360 around quite a bit. The 360 music technology is 360 reality audio, which should not be confused with 360 spatial sound mapping, which is the hotter sister. So, with compatible services like Amazon, Deezer, Nugs.net, In Tidal, you can find 360 music with enhanced bubble or spatial effects. Sony always puts out a nifty demo that exaggerates what this tech can do, but for normal songs that get the 360 label slapped on them, maybe not a huge difference. I dare not say gimmick. I don't dare. Supported audio formats. Let's start with music. You can use the USB port to play the following formats. And Bluetooth for these. So yes, you have high-res options for both local USB, local network, and device on the bar options. For your device to bar options, if you don't have a lot of high-res files stored locally, which I assume you don't, you'll need to subscribe to some streaming services with high-res content, like Tidal, for instance. You'll need to specify in settings that you want the highest quality content. You'll need an Android device, and you'll need to use Bluetooth and enable LDAC, which will be the compatible high-res wireless delivery mechanism. As always, with high-res, lots can go wrong, but it is possible. Kudos to Sony for giving music some high-res love, but looking forward to all the companies working together to make high-res easier to pull off and more transparent. On the home theater side, you get everything you need. Your DTS, Dolby Suite, and LPCM. You're covered. Yes, Dolby Atmos and DTS:X are supported at the lossless level, so you can enjoy that superior audio from your Blu-rays. Don't throw them away quite yet. Sound adjustments. You have 4 broad EQ sound profiles: auto, standard, music, and cinema. Cinema emphasizes the height effects, and music lathers the sound in gloss and sparkle. Sony would prefer you not adjust manual EQ controls, so they don't give you any controls for that. There's a lot of sophisticated sound balancing software built in, and your Rubish fiddling is definitely going to screw everything up. So no manual EQ settings, you child. There is a sound field optimization feature you can use to tune your system to Sony's preference based on the acoustics of your room. And tucked away in nested menus, you can adjust volume levels on the different speaker groups and input room dimensions if you're really serious about all of this. Sometimes you can toggle vertical effects or the immersion audio enhancement feature. For instance, if listening to Dolby Atmos, the vertical audio enhancement feature is forced on. For non-3D audio, you can choose if you want, or not, some of that vertical stuff in your sound. You'll find 3 intensity level for the bar subwoofers, along with your typical night and dialogue modes. You are also given 12 levels of volume control on both the sub and surrounds. Controls and display. For controlling the bar, you have 3 locations: the bar, the remote, and the app. The bar controls are limited to power, volume, input, Bluetooth pairing, and a quick link to previously played streaming. Hold the source button for the Atmos demo and the music service button for the 360 demo. Helpful if you're trying to show off and time is limited. Personal preference: every bar should put a pause play toggle in the controls, so your spouse can walk in, stop your music, and yell at you because your soundbar is being too awesome. You don't have those controls on this bar, so I guess she'll just leave you. The remote, quite functional. Looks like the late 90s design department in Sony is alive and well, designing remotes. It's clunky with chunky rubber buttons. Like all Sony remotes, so they got a weird retro tick going on. On the remote, you have quick access to inputs, sound modes, sub and rear volumes, display adjustments, etc. Most of what you want to do is right there on the surface, though the sound quality is a bit tinny. You also have the Sony Music Center app, which gives you access to pretty much all the controls, but not all of them. Sony, with this bar, broadened the scope of the display by using the TV screen to provide clear feedback, whether volume, sound mode, audio format. The list goes on. Sony goes as far to give you a graphical interface on the TV to select sources and adjust settings like channel levels, a great alternative to the debasing process of scrolling through a 3-inch screen on the bar with like 6 pixels on it. Seems like an obvious thing to do, Not sure why this idea is not more prevalent. If you have a Sony Bravia TV, you unsurprisingly are given specialized on-screen controls to adjust the bar settings through Bravia Sync. The display on the actual bar is otherwise extremely average and quite frankly difficult to see if sitting at any kind of distance. You do have your typical bright, dim, and turn off after a bit options if an ever on or bright display makes your eyes fall out. Wireless streaming. As a reminder, if you're looking to do some high-res wireless streaming, your one option is Bluetooth with the FLAC option enabled as discussed. Okay, also through your network, but I'm guessing most of you don't have high-res files on your network. For your Wi-Fi multi-room streaming options, you have AirPlay and Chromecast. Both are supported. Most bars don't do that. As you might expect, this bar does offer Alexa and Google Assistant support, but the bar has no microphone, so you'll have to find a middleman to yell at. Altogether, this bar makes it easy to get audio on the bar, keeping your bum squarely on the couch.
Swing at the buzzards off her back!
I wish they was for you. You gotta watch your back, your front, your side, they disloyal. I gotta watch my crown, cause from birth I've been royal. And that's from the start. Yeah.
Sound quality. Overall, I strongly recommend this bar just based on sound alone, not even considering all the other goodies. The sound is sharp, punchy, modern. It's stimulating and fills the room. I do still think you're fooling yourself if you think you're going to get anything like a top-tier 3D sound experience with the SoundBar alone. But I would say if you're shooting for that, getting this bar would be a solid move. I also tend to think you're deluding yourself if you think you can get a really satisfying bass response without a dedicated sub. But this would be a reasonable bar with which to try. I have a mixed reaction to the immersion AE button, the height engine toggle. It does make the sound bigger, but it's largely achieving the effect by putting the tweeters in hyperdrive, When listening to just music, it tended to make the sound almost grating. For instance, a clapping sound was given far too much emphasis and made super bright relative to the rest of the ensemble. Whoever mastered the song would get really offended. For sober, casual music listening, the height effect was really not my style. I generally enjoyed music with the immersion AE button off. On the other hand, when watching action movies, I definitely enjoyed the hyped up effects and emphasis on vertical sound. There are not many single pieces of audio hardware that can deliver cinematic sound like this. On the Atmos Demo Blu-ray, this bar delivered a stunning vertical rain effect, amongst the most convincing I've heard, period. It was as though the rain was above my head. Not this, oh, I'll play along. It kind of sounds like it's up there. Like, definitely up there. I don't care where the bar was. Was thinking, how the f did they do that? The beam tweeters do some amazing work placing sound. Much better than the woofers. Oddly, I do recall during the helicopter demo, hearing the more high-pitched part of the helicopter right above me, and the lower pitches of the helicopter positioned lower in space. I found that particular demo quite odd and distracting and points to some of the limitations of SoundBar 3D sound. But sound demos are not the real world, and this dissociation is not as obvious when watching regular videos. Admittedly, the vertical engine is not critical for all video watching experience, so use the toggle as necessary. Obviously, adding a sub and surrounds brings a lot to the table in terms of delivering a convincing cinematic experience. I found the sub to be quite good. I didn't sense any flabbiness or delays keeping up with a fast-acting scene. Powerful but nimble. Pretty satisfied. The surrounds, I would say, are a quality add, but not revolutionary. They bolster the spatial effects for sure, but there is nothing particularly special about them in the SoundBar surround space. If you only have a budget for 2 of the 3 components, just be honest with yourself. If you want richer sound, get a bass module. If you want to energize the spatial effects, buy the surrounds. But maybe not these. I'll get to it. Wrap up, I'll admit. I think Sony crafted something like a dream bar here. There do not seem to be any major technology omissions that might make you bang your head on the table, like no DTS, Bluetooth, AirPlay, aux-in, eARC. This bar's sound sparkles, and it grabs your attention. And it's not just software tricks. It's also supported with a decent array of drivers and driver technology. It's not just coated in gold. Nearly the whole bar is gold. If you're looking for a soundbar that arguably offers both peak cinema tech and sound, and a system that, while not completely my speed, delivers a glitzy, clean, atmospheric, modern music performance, spread your wallet. If you want a device that makes your TV sound better and makes your music sound warm and cozy, this is more than you need. Too much bar, perhaps, in every respect. You can meet your needs for a lot less money. Okay, it's time to address the elephant in the room, the 2022 CES announcements. The HT-A7000 is slated for a major optional upgrade this spring, not with any hardware changes to the bar, but to the surround speakers offering. That's right, the newly revealed SA-RS5 for $600 will outshine the SA-RS3S by bringing 80 more watts of max power to the pair, offering soft dome tweeters, adding upward firing drivers, and 2 passive radiators to fill out the low end. On top of this, they can operate from just battery, making them mobile if you choose. This is a significant upgrade to a sound system within itself, but there's more. The SA-RS5 will bring the HT-A9 360 spatial audio mapping, which is beyond belief amazing. So I've been told. Haven't heard it yet, they're hard to get. Being quite taken with this setup as is, I imagine this will be the soundbar system to beat with the upgrade. In particular on the cinema side. Can't wait to find out. Hey, thanks for sticking around. Wrapping this up, glad to be back. Catch you on the next one.